It was 7 a.m. on the 24th of December 2004 when the tsunami struck the coast of Sri Lanka. Over 35,000 people were killed and over 500,000 were displaced. Entire communities, livelihoods, loved ones, hopes and dreams were lost to nature's indiscriminate fury that day. And there I was as a 20-year-old, stunned by the scenes before me. Entire towns reduced to rubble, the homeless crowded into refugee camps, hurried burials in mass graves, an unprecedented disaster in a country still in the shadow of a civil war. And while I was so grateful that my loved ones had been spared, I could not help but feel a need to act. I need to do something, do more than just spectate. And it also sparked in me questions about purpose and the meaning of my life as a young man. And I decided to act. And my first step was to volunteer in food and clothing shelters in the city of Colombo, the rest of my family. And thereon, within a week, I was coordinating relief efforts across the south and east of the island for a local NGO, the east still being an active war zone at the time. This was the start of my journey as a social entrepreneur, and the moment I realized that I wanted to live a life of contribution. What I'd like to share with you today is a distillation of the lessons that I'm learning so far on this journey. And I've condensed them into 3 principles that I live by, and they guide my practice as a social entrepreneur. And now these principles are the result of course, experience, research, and deep reflection. Because after my involvement with relief efforts in Sri Lanka, my interest transitioned to community development projects, particularly in Sri Lanka and also in Malawi, which is where I spent part of my childhood. And while my passion for projects grew, I also started to question the effectiveness of the aid and development system that I was a part of. Wondering if I was in fact making a valuable contribution at all. A key moment of realization for me was the aftermath of a biogas project I had been working on. We had successfully installed a renewable source of electricity for a rural village hamlet. Yet, at the handover ceremony, I received a polite request for further assistance constructing a bridge. And I thought to myself, when would this end? Am I really making a difference here? Am I just propagating a message of dependency? And I also started to think about my own personal motivations. Was this merely an egoic pursuit on my part? Or was I really about enabling development for others? And I started to think, what's development about? What is my role in it? And it was really that particular project marked a period of growth for me. And what I've really come to find is that development is a process of enabling human freedom. And these are views echoed by people I deeply admire, such as Vandana Shiva, Amartya Sen, E.F. Schumacher, just to name a few. But what I'd like to do today is highlight some of these 3 principles that I live by and embellish them with stories from Empower's work in Malawi. And this particular project involves 38 villages in Malawi, an entire region collaborating towards a 5-year vision for self-reliance. The first principle is around acknowledging capacity. And this principle is basically about acknowledging the fact that people are extraordinarily capable. We're talking about human potential today. And I feel it's apt to say that people are extraordinarily capable of actioning their own development if given the opportunity to do so. I feel that our place of birth dictates so much of what is possible in our lives. And the key point of difference, for instance, between a youth in rural Malawi and myself is in the opportunities that we have access to, and not in our innate capacity as human beings. And in saying that, I feel that projects need to start with a deep acknowledgement of what exists, what people are capable of. And saying that our life experiences, our skills, our talents, our relationships, our hopes, our aspirations, those are key starting points. And we need to start with assets and not deficits. work with people's confidence, foster dignity and respect in this process. And really, my role here is that of an enabler, not of a rescuer. An enabler standing for the greatness of others. Great people, for instance, like Felix and Joyce here. Felix, a father of 3, a subsistence farmer who seized opportunities to develop himself through business education, to develop a business plan for a grocery store, gained access to a microfinance loan, and now he's a serial entrepreneur. Or Joyce Moale, who represents a new wave of hope for women in a region that traditionally marginalized women. At just 28, this mother of 2 was elected the chairperson for a community bank for 38 villages. I can only imagine the impact this would have on the young women in that region. So you see, these are just 2 stories. People are capable of incredible things if given the opportunity. The second principle that flows on from this is enabling self-determination. And I feel that people's aspirations and the aspirations of communities need to form the center of projects. In saying this, I feel that top-down prescriptive approaches and pressures to scale are counterproductive to this and can often make false assumptions about what is needed in those areas. I feel that true dignity and respect and sustainability are only possible if you enable the processes that enable the processes through which people can articulate and action their own visions for development, their own aspirations. And I feel, again, an example from our projects in Malawi, vision workshops and village development committees are an example of this. We have in this project vision workshops through which all members of the community are engaged, men, women, and even crucially children, and they get together and they discuss their goals for development, the challenges they face, the assets they have, and the plans that they can put into action over the next year. And an inclusive, elected village development committee then sees or oversees the implementation of these action plans over the next year, and this process is refreshed. Now, projects such as renewable energy projects, a community bank, sanitation, water, have come about through this process. And what's important is that it's community-derived. It's a self-facilitated framework for these communities to really determine their own development on their own terms and move beyond mere survival and towards the redundancy of our role in their lives. The third principle is about challenging paradigms. And this is a point about challenging the notion that the developed world has everything right. That the so-called developing countries need to blindly emulate the path of the developed world. And that there can, in fact, be traditional or more local, human, sustainable solutions to development challenges. And in fact, that they can leapfrog some of the issues we face in the developed world. I feel that Kapita Primary School in Malawi, in this same project, exemplifies this principle. This school really, to me, challenges the notion of this lingering image we have of the starving African child. And this school, after a vision workshop, decided that they wanted to take charge of their own development. 400 students, just 5 teachers, and they said, well, we want to start with having our own meal program, a sustainable meal program, and we also want to improve sanitation in our school. These are 2 crucial areas that we want to improve. Our involvement in the project was to provide them with permaculture training, which is a design science for sustainability. And what this enabled the students and the teachers and even the parents who were involved to do was basically have a toolkit of practical processes that they could apply towards their plan. And what they did after that was quite amazing. They developed their own permaculture committee. Again, this is through their own volition. And they devised plans of action. And their first was to develop an edible food garden, again, an organic garden. And as you can see in the picture there, children working, again, on their own food garden. Right? And they're also working on water harvesting. And to address the second issue around sanitation, what they did was they actually developed composting toilets. So they effectively doubled. They only had 3 toilets in their school. Within a month, they doubled it to 6, and they have plans for another 10 in the months to come. And the school also plans to be a center for sustainability. They want to teach other schools in Malawi how to grow their own food, to provide a sustainable meal program, for instance, or to build their own sanitation. Again, these children are amazing in that they're embracing the notion that they can take charge of their own development. It does not need to come from outside. So in conclusion, I feel that for there to be authenticity, it's essential that I incorporate these principles into my own life. How am I acknowledging my own capacity? How am I charting my own vision for myself in my life? How am I challenging, or how do I have the courage to challenge paradigms that exist in my reality? And I feel that this authenticity is vital in when I'm going out there and speaking to others about doing the same. And moreover, I feel that it's crucial to examine the foundations of our intentions when doing good. There's so many of us who have such a willingness, a strong desire to contribute. But I feel that it's important that we examine the roots of those intentions. And if there's anything that I feel I've learned after that fateful day in 2004, it's that true contribution is not simply about just doing good. It's how you do good that really matters. And I feel that it is by enabling freedom for others that you allow them to step into their own power, their own possibilities, and move beyond the boundaries of inequity. Thank you.